Hello, hello, hello to those of you who are coming in. Hello, Uncle Junior. Send me a request, Uncle Junior. Send me a request. That way we could go live and start this interview.
Oh, so we're good.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Uncle Junior, for joining. Because
Thank
you were trying to join, but it told me like 2 or 3 times that you wasn't able to join.
you. Nah, man, I was here. I was trying to join, but it wouldn't let me get through. But I'm here now.
Okay, okay, okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome,
Thank you.
welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are joining in, please welcome the man that you know for his hit single Mama Used to Say, Junior Giscombe. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, young. Thank
No
you.
problem, no problem. So, the fans I want to know, where has Junior been? What's up with Junior? What's new with Junior?
Well, Junior's still been working very hard during the period of time that you haven't been seeing me. I've been doing a lot of shows in Europe and doing production, working with Jagordi and also iRock in America at the present moment in time, and working with a French man called the AP Connection and doing that. But obviously, with COVID, everything slowed down,
Mm-hmm,
and you kind of had time to reflect and relook at what you were doing and how you want to progress. So,
mm-hmm,
in a sense, to be quite honest, for me, the COVID 2 years, being able to sit down and actually see what's going on was very good for me. So,
mm-hmm,
it's like I'm rejuvenated right now and getting myself back into wanting to come out to America, doing some dates and going into Australasia and doing dates there too. So, yeah, it's that time.
mm-hmm. Ever since COVID started, how have you handled everything?
It's been difficult, I think, like for everybody, right? We all have family and COVID affected, I think, a lot of us, family members and stuff. So it was difficult, but at the same time, it was an education.
Mm-hmm,
And I think those of us who didn't really take time to assess what truly was going on at that
mm-hmm,
time, because of the fact that they did have the moment, they did have the time, came up with a better idea, I think, and a better way of moving forward, right, than to follow um, everything that was given to them as a fact that was too early for it to be a fact. So in that regard, as I said, I'm pleased. I'm pleased in one respect concerning COVID. Obviously, lots of people passed, and you can't push that to one side. But at the same time, it gave a lot of us time to think.
yes, yes, it truly does. And ever since the pandemic started, Uncle Junior, it was just a very challenging time for us. What's going to happen the next day? What's going to happen the next week? What's going to happen the next month? When would the pandemic end? Because it's like none of us were expecting this to happen.
Well, I don't, that's what it was. I think it was because of the fact that it came from out of the blue, what happened, and how it it closed everything down. It closed down closeness with people. It closed down people being able to touch people, people being able to be within the same vicinity of people, and we
Mhm.
are beings. We need one another.
Mhm.
The Zooms and everything else was great because at least we could access one another. But as it went along,
Mhm.
I think we grew to understand the importance of actually being in the vicinity of somebody else and being able
Mhm.
to just sit down and talk with somebody and touch them and say hi. We are those kinds of beings, and that was taken away for a little while, and it's like people are revisiting the old, which is
Mhm.
fantastic, to be quite honest, because we need to be close to one another. We need
Yes.
action of being human beings.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Especially us as Black people. It's like, that's what like most of us need to, like, take note of and keep in our mind. Is like, be there for one another, support one another, be happy for one another, but not tear each other down, because each and every day you hear something, like, about Black people beating each other up, stabbing each other, killing each other. And, like, it's a disgrace to, like, our race, into the community. Like, when are we going to, like, put a stop to this?
I agree with you. We have the same kind of problem in Europe as America has and Australasia,
Hmm.
which is that, like, there is a perception of how you perceive the black man,
Hmm.
and that's not just in America, that's around the
Hmm.
world. And it leads you to believe that there is a trying to drown out the black man so that the black man doesn't ever become an important force
Hmm.
within the world as we see it today. And
Yes.
those doors are closed to that black man. So he may
Hmm.
be a millionaire or a trillionaire, but the people that he's are not from where he's coming from, that he's always going to try to assimilate to be. And we can't afford to do that anymore. We have to put ourselves in a place, I think, whereby we control and own, and we have the resources in Africa to be in that position.
Hmm.
And the matter of who you work with, I think, in various countries to access that, our own
Hmm.
bank, our own,
Uh-huh.
that kind of area where we
Yes.
are investing within our banks are giving us back a better rate because
Uh-huh.
it makes sense for them to have us put our money into their institutions. They then
Hmm.
turn around and actually help the actual areas that their banks are within, which are black areas,
Hmm.
within, to enhance those areas. I think that's the kind of mindset that we need to be on to move forward. I don't think we need help from Caucasian people to move us forward. If we do, we'll always have the upper hand because they've invested. So they will always be the ones to tell you how they see us.
Hmm.
Whereas to be in a position whereby we show us, we don't have anybody trying to take a narrative of us to put into the marketplace for the marketplace to assess us in a particular way. You were saying about gun crime and us killing one another. If you continually perpetuate that within the news, then white people will believe that that's the narrative, that's the truth.
Uh-huh.
When in reality, there is a lot of the killings that have gone on in America recently, the mass killings in schools and whatever else have been Caucasians.
it's
So
it's really
there
sad.
should be balance. You get what I'm saying? There should be
Yeah.
balance to all of this. I'm not saying that what's going on in the projects or wherever else in America or anywhere else in the world
Hmm.
doesn't go on. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is if you live in a country like, say, the UK, where the demographics is most probably that there are maybe like 2 million, say 3 million black people in England, and the population is 68 million. But the most people who are going to jail are black youth.
Yeah.
You understand? So the
Uh,
perpetuation of the same thing
uh-huh.
in America
Yeah.
happens
And
here too.
yeah, it's like some black people are going to jail. The majority are getting killed.
Mm.
It's sad. And like, if a black person commits a crime, they get killed. And you hear it in the news, and you see it on social media, they get killed. If it's a white person that committed a crime, they get arrested.
Exactly. But
You
you have
see?
in your 13th, I think it's your 13th constitution, that there is something
Hmm.
within it that actually mentions the fact that black people are not looked upon
Hmm.
as inhuman. So
It's like the racial
constitution,
act will
exactly.
never end. It just keeps on going on and on. It's like,
Yeah.
people just wonder, when is a stop gonna be put to this?
I don't know. I look at it and I can't see how you can stop something that's institutionalized. It's not something that comes from
Mhm.
10 years, 20,
Mhm.
30. We're talking hundreds of years, and thousands of years, to be quite honest with you, with
Mhm.
an institutional way of
Mhm.
perceiving that color black. It could be from religion. It could be that the whole narrative of religion was that
Mhm.
it was the black man that carried the cross. But the
Yeah,
black man, you get what I'm trying to say, right? But if you look at that time, most people would have been black anyway. So
yeah.
the narrative of color came in through somewhere else. And once you had the narrative of color playing a part in terms of Europeans being able to access finance, power, to be seen and perceived as being dominant because of those factors, when
Mhm.
telling the truth that the people who actually made that possible were black.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the lie has always been perpetuated. So the young kid on the block who's a white guy perceives himself as being better than you, even though he can't eat as much as you. He
Mhm.
doesn't have what you have, but he still perceives that he's better than you because that's the mindset that was given from birth and has traveled through generations.
Yeah.
To get rid of something like this, you've got to eradicate that mindset. And that
Mhm.
mindset is still prevalent all over the world, not just
Mhm.
in America.
Mhm.
It's prevalent everywhere. It's not changed. There is still a stigma towards being black in
Yes.
the world. And
Uh-huh.
the world will say that it's opening up, it's being diverse. What does that truly mean? It's being encompassing. What does that truly mean? We're in 2022 and people are talking about diverse and inclusive.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
what was the millions of years before going on? How did George Floyd all of a sudden turn around and
Yes.
feel that you can include me in
Uh-huh.
what we're doing? We're
Uh-huh.
more diverse in what we're doing. They're just wonderful
Exactly.
words. They're just wonderful words to use and to give people a perception of what could be, not what is.
Exactly. And you talk about years back, if we keep like people like Emmett Till, Martin Luther King Jr., etc. Those black Emmett was a 14-year-old boy, just like innocent,
Mhm,
didn't do anything, he got killed.
mhm,
Martin Luther King, a young man who received his doctorates, got killed.
mhm. Again, as I said, we're not dealing with people who, we're not dealing with people who perceive life in the same way we do and perceive um, us sharing, us being of one people. Diversity is always the key. And if you can divide people by race, by sexuality, by all these things that they're now bringing in, binary, they, them, and whatever else, to completely take you away from the things that are more important, which
Mm-hmm.
which is for me, which is the lack of equality between
Yes.
you and I.
Uh-huh. What's and like you talk about like us black people, not having freedom, us getting hurt, stabbed, killed. And the one thing that I need to keep in mind is that why are many black people like having these like diseases like heart disease, heart attacks, liver disease, lung cancer. It's like every day we hear like a black person getting killed from these types of diseases.
Hmm. I think it's weird that people don't see that, or not weird. No, I should say that I think a lot of people now are beginning to see that the food that we eat, the water that we drink, right, is not good for us. Some people it's great for. It's a bit like when people used to, I would go away and people, black people would turn around and have sunblocker. And I would sit down and ask, why would you put sunblocker? Oh, I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
burnt. But we came from fields where people were in the sun for like 25 hours, if it was
Mm-hmm.
25 in the day.
Yes.
They were out there from sun up to sundown. We are people that absorb the sun. We need, it's part of our DNA. We are
Mm-hmm.
not the same in that regard. We must begin to fully grasp that and stop saying we are. We don't need to block the sun. We need the sun to enhance us. It travels through us and allows our melanin, right, to keep strong, to keep us strong, right, as a people. It's not incredibly good for Caucasian people because black people don't truly get skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Black people do. We need the, it's part of us. A lot of us, yes, we've been in Europe a long time. Cold weather is great, but we actually need sun. The black people, that's part of us. It makes us as a people shine, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and what it gives us, what the sun gives us in
Mm-hmm.
nutrients and things that we need to keep our bodies going strong and well, right, cannot be bought. And we need to fully grasp all these things. We are not in a place whereby the people fully understand us. Even after all these years, there is a perception of us, but not an understanding of us. So when we're loud, it looks like if we're being aggressive. When we are being aggressive, right, it's over the top. So you shoot me. If your counterpart as a white man is being aggressive, you allow him. You allow him because
Yeah.
you understand him. And even the
Mm-hmm.
black cop will understand him better
Mm-hmm.
than he understands his own.
Yes. But things if you allow things to happen, it's gonna keep on. If you allow things to like keep on going, it's gonna keep happening.
Of course, they're not. Why would you change something that's working? It works for the organizations that put these things in place. It doesn't work for the people, but it works for the organizations. And if the organizations can continue to make money from it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's all good,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the people,
Definitely.
people, it's playing, it's like, it's the worst of the worst. But that doesn't matter so long as the money's turning over, the departments and everybody else can get their quota so that they're able to do whatever they need to do. We live in a very corrupt society in a corrupt world, so let's not fool
Mm-hmm.
out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of society, Uncle Junior, a couple of years ago, um, like organization named MS Society had interviewed you, and you talk about like the loss of your daughter. As the days and goes by, how do you feel that the most important person is no longer with you?
You never ever get over that. I don't think anybody, you know, I don't think anybody would tell you that they've gotten over that feeling of loss.
Yes, yes,
I think it's
because
very, I
mhm,
think it's very difficult I think it's very difficult to say that you've come to a place where you're even at peace with it. You're, you deal with it. You
mhm,
don't make it,
yeah,
you make it, it's there all the time because you're
mhm,
constantly thinking about what you most probably could have done, what you were doing. Then you go back into the wonderful parts of that person's life that
mhm,
you shared
yeah,
with,
mhm,
and you can look at what growth you got from that situation. It all bounces, but it takes time, and it's not something that I find easy still at this point.
yeah, uh-huh.
You
Yeah,
know,
because I mean, like when I was watching that interview, I was just saying to myself, it's like this is one beautiful human being. It's so sad that she's gone at a young age.
mm, I think, as I said before, she helped me to be a better person
Mm-hmm.
by her attitude, her outlook on life, the way that she would laugh about things that I would most probably take seriously.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
She could always see the funny side of
Hmm.
things. She could always
Yes.
take, things that we would do together and make a joke out of it. And she never once was, woe was me and woe am I. And that also used to make me have to sit back because, you would think that somebody would be, why me? Why all the time? But she never did. Maybe to herself, she did. But with us, there was always this fight that was going on, and that was what I held on to, that whole fight, the
Uh-huh.
fight for life, the fight for being here, being part of, being relevant to, so she taught me
Hmm.
and grew
Yes.
difficult
Uh-huh.
time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like most important. Like when your own child is your backbone, gives you advice,
Hmm.
and like pushes you to keep going.
Hmm. That person's not in a position to be able to do what they would love to do, but they see what you're doing and they love what you're doing and they continue to press and push.
Mhm.
There are periods whereby I wasn't doing much work because I pretty much like staying at home and being her carer.
Mhm.
And there would be gigs that would come up. She would be like, why aren't you going? Why are you staying here? What is wrong with you? You're not, you should be there. You should be. And you're sitting there thinking like, listen to this girl. What is wrong with you? You know?
Uh-huh.
But it was always the drive, the push, continue, do what you're doing. And I loved it. But obviously you want to do what's right. And what was right
Yeah.
needs to be where I was,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
But it was, she never sat back on the fact of,
Hmm.
okay, dad, you're doing this and that. It was always, you should be doing what you do.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I used to say to her at the time that like everything in time, Janique, everything in time. There's no rush. You know, God has
Hmm.
blessed me. I'm good. I can do this. Uh, it was, we had a great relationship in that way.
Yeah. Hmm. It's like and that's the best gift from God, a father and daughter relationship. You have your agreements, you have your disagreements, but at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you guys are a team, a duo, a family.
You have to be. I mean, like you're going to learn about girls, yeah, and you would, as a father, you're there, and you have, um, I don't know. I think it's a childish outlook, right? That like you don't want your girl to do this at 15. You don't want her to have a
Mhm.
boyfriend. You don't want,
Yeah.
and you,
Uh-huh.
right? But the truth of the matter is, she's an adult and she's growing. She's going to do her, even if she comes home and she's showing you that she's still this wonderful girl. She's going to do her when she opens that door and goes out there. So better you learn who she is from she's small, so you have no illusion that you and her can talk frankly and openly without there being any kind of criticism or any kind of downplaying of that girl, but you constantly push confidence. Then obviously you're going to be able to know that person a bit better because she's going to feel open to talk to you on any level. That's what you want. So
Exactly.
you don't want to be under any illusions with your daughter. You want your daughter to feel
Yes. Uh-huh.
confident, tell you anything, her sex life. Come and talk to me. We can
Yeah.
laugh about
Mhm.
it. I'm a male, and what? I understand. You know, you want to be able to have such an open relationship that you can talk frankly, because that way you'll always stay true to one another. When you start to lie or you start going around the bushes with stories,
Mhm.
then you start losing the person.
Uh-huh. And like, the one thing about lying, don't think you're gonna get away with it because you're gonna get caught in it. You're gonna get caught in a lie.
Of course.
And let me tell you something. If you lie to a person, they're gonna keep on asking you a question until they get the truth out of you.
Exactly. So wouldn't it be better that we start from telling the truth from off, so that we don't vary off, we don't deviate, right? So you and I stay strong. I've had that kind of relationship with all of my children, right? Of course they lie and tell untruths. They're children, they're kids, they're growing. That's how you do. But you get older as they are now, and you sit and you talk honestly, right? So that everybody is on the same page. I might not like what you said and the way that you see how I'm developing or you're developing or what, but I think it's important that we tell truth to one
Yes,
another.
always tell the truth and let the
Yeah,
devil be ashamed because it's
exactly.
like, lying is a sin. What
Of
are you
course.
gonna gain by lying? Always tell the truth.
Might as well. You have no, if you can, if you're moving yourself forward, trying to go backwards. So, you know, right, if every time you're going to turn around, you're going to do the same thing that you did the year before or lie about something that you did the year before, you never move
Mhm.
forward. You stay stagnant. It's like a guy that you would meet or a girl that you would meet who was the best music in the world was in the 80s. They're stuck in the 80s, right?
Uh-huh.
You get what I'm saying? Or we're
And
stuck in the
yeah, and speaking of the 80s, Uncle Junior, your hit single that everybody knows about, Mama used to say, take your time, young man. People always need to keep that in their mind because it's a life lesson. Mama used to say when you was a young girl, you was a young man, to not lie, always tell the truth. Because what
Well,
are you gonna gain by lying?
but that was the emphasis of the song. The song was about telling young people, look at this, right? You know, you can get yourself in situations. Small boy wants, I want to grow up. I want to get there. I want to be 18. I want to be 21. I want to be 25. There is no rush. Get there.
Yeah.
Just take
Mhm.
your time. You will get there. God willing,
Uh-huh.
you will get there. It's what you learn on that journey of getting there. It's what you did. It's the energy put in, the desire, the want, the need for the time
Mhm.
spent to do it. You see the end product, which is the record and everything else, but that all those years before, right? And the belief you have in yourself, that's what that song was pushing. right? For young kids to understand that your mother is gold, platinum, everything that is good. If you want,
Mm-hmm.
if you're materialistic, everything great. If you're
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, everything monumental. Your mother is
Yes.
that and more.
Uh-huh.
And when she speaks to you, and if she's a good woman, there is nothing about what she's going to say that is going to push you anywhere far, but far in a good way, because that's true love,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's uncompromising love.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. And like going back when you mentioned materialistic, if you see these young kids nowadays, Uncle Junior, it's like, they wear materialistic things, especially like babies who are not even a year old. I was like, what is up with these parents nowadays? Back in the days it wasn't like that.
Very true. But then I think also we have to look at the fact
Hi,
that
Auntie
he,
Melba.
I look at
No,
it.
I'm saying Melba Moore, she joined the live.
Hey, Melba. I love Melba. I really do. She's a wonderful woman.
She
But yeah,
sure is.
oh yeah. But your question concerning what it is with these children and stuff, I think a
Mhm.
lot of this, has to do with the projection of social media. It's become such an important factor in their lives that they find it difficult to be themselves because they've always been projected as you should look like, you should be more,
Exactly.
you should.
Exactly.
So you're not allowing them to grow and enjoy growing and enjoy life.
Mhm.
What you're doing is you're actually stunting,
Mhm.
you're pushing them down, you're stunting their growth by
Mhm.
pushing them in the corner if they don't look the
Mhm.
right way, if you haven't got the right wig, if you don't wear the right lipstick, if your chin is this, if your butt isn't big enough, if you're
Uh-huh.
what these children have.
That's how it was back in the day, Uncle Junior. But nowadays, it's like, you see these females and they look like they're homeless, walking around the street, living in houses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing you.
Hmm. Just be yourself. It's that, and back in those days, it's like, people, they expect you to not be yourselves. They expect you to be like them.
Mm. Well, I think it's more, as I said, the way that social media has been built. It's been built on the fact of let us tell you how you should look.
Mhm.
So it's not that far off from when it wasn't there, and the actual people who were running the world would say, "This is how you should live. This is how
Mhm.
much you should have." So if they say like, right, $150 a week, but the guy who's telling you that has just gone to dinner and spent $150 to eat, when he's telling you that you should have $150 for the week, and he knows that you can survive on that, but he just spent 150 for a night. That hasn't changed. We've just gone into social media with that. That's all,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
exactly the same thing. If I can
Mhm.
continue to project to you what you should want, what you should have, what you should need, and if your
Mhm.
parents go out and buy these things,
Mhm.
then you believe in yourself that, like, well, it's no big thing. What, Nike or this, that, and the other? It's no big thing. My mum got it for. You don't know what your mum did to get it, but she's only doing it because she wants to keep up. She doesn't want to be seen or see
Mhm.
Johnny not in the right clothes that is happening at the time, because he's going to feel that he's not really worthy. All of
Yeah.
these pressures that they've been put under to put themselves across as being somebody, not fully understanding that from birth you are somebody.
Yes,
You
you are
don't need
yourself.
clothes.
Don't be like anybody else.
Exactly. You don't need the clothes. You don't need all of the paraphernalia to describe who you are. You are. You just need to walk out there and show the world who you are. But you're
Yes,
somebody. We
exactly.
all are. And the social media trying to say to you that you're not, unless you should,
Mhm.
close yourself off from that kind of mindset, because it won't help you to move yourself forward.
True. Exactly. And Mama used to say, "Take your time, young man." And there's also this other single that you put out, "Too Late." What's
Right.
the story behind that single?
Well, Too Late really was, I'd gone to Edinburgh. I was doing some shows in Scotland, and I was up in Edinburgh, and I met this young lady, and she was a in terms of the style of dress and everything else that was going on in England at the time. But we went through the like the circus part, and we were walking and we were talking and stuff, and she was explaining to me about her life, and she was giving me the story of her father who was a drunk and her mother being beaten up all the time and stuff. And I did the tour, came back to England, and I put on the radio. When I came back from England, I came back down from Scotland, and I came to England, and I put the radio on, and Rick James came on. And the
God
first
rest
line,
his soul.
yes, always, I love Rick. But the first line of the song was, "When I came home last night, right, I was so intoxicated." And I'd thought about the girl that I met in Scotland. And I wrote "Too Late" off of the basis of women being abused, because nobody else was saying that at that time. Nobody else wanted to confront um, that abuse at that time. So I had I had a lot of problems with the record company, because after doing Mummy Used to Say, they wanted something else that was in that vein. But I just really I wanted to relate with my music. I didn't just want to put music out for the sake of it. And
Mm-hmm.
here somebody tell me something that I knew that loads of women were going through. But in my own area where I lived as a kid, women were going through that. And I wanted to be able to say that and not come across all the time as making records where you're standing up and you're smiling and you're jumping about, and it's great because it's very entertaining. I wanted to actually write something that meant something to people, that people could turn around and say that there was somebody out there who could see what we're going through, and is trying to highlight that. And Too Late was that song. You know, Too Late for me went on to become, if you like, a much bigger song to
Mm-hmm.
people than Mama Used to Say, because of the lyrical content, because of it being associated with what
Mm-hmm.
people saw,
Yes.
you know.
And tell us about the record label you were signed to during that time.
And during that time, I was signed to Mercury label, which in England was called Polygram. And Polygram had a label which was called Phonogram. And originally signed to Phonogram. But before that, I had a record deal with a small label called Pressure Records. And we had put out a record in the States called Get Up and Dance, Hot Up and Heated. And it had got on the Bubblers charts on Billboard, the top 100. I think it was number 3 or something like that. So the record was about us in terms of going on different radio stations across the country. And Polygram, the A&R man, came over to America where I was at the time. And he rang me and we had a conversation on the phone. I went to meet him, I think it was the day after that. And in our meeting, it was more discussing how I wanted to work, how I wanted to make records. Did I want to make records in America? Did I want to make records in England?
Mm-hmm.
I felt that going back to England to make a record was better for me, because I needed, after being in America, I realized that like I would get swamped in terms of the sound, wanting to make a record that sounded like everybody else. In England, it would be an interpretation of a sound, but it would be my interpretation. So it would be
Mm-hmm.
more stylized to me, opposed
Yes.
to being what everybody else was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Too Late was born really out of Rick James and this young lady. And as I said, for me, it was important. I just wanted to highlight the fact that these things are happening, and we're not talking about it. And we need to, because these women need help,
Yeah.
you know.
And speaking of England, growing up, Uncle Junior, how was it like being a United Kingdom born based R&B artist?
Incredibly difficult because racism in Europe at that time was at a height. So to get your records played on radio was a massive thing in the UK, especially being black. So my record, they wouldn't play it first because they said that it was too rock and roll. Who does he think he is? He's trying to make records like so and so. So they wouldn't play me. When the record became a hit in America, everybody started playing me
They
back.
gave you a really difficult time
Very difficult time.
because that's how it is with the record labels. Like when you come out to be on one of the top singers,
Hmm.
it's like you're gonna go through your biggest obstacles
Hmm.
and later overcome them.
But you have to go through them. You have to see them first, and you have to understand them so that then you can move forward. During that period of time when Mama used to say it was a hit, you would be doing certain TV shows, and you know that you should be top billing, let's say, but they still wouldn't recognize you because they see you as just a one-off hit artist. So they wouldn't recognize that you had outsold most of the British artists in the country. They wouldn't recognize the fact that, like, you've just done a song in Beverly Hills Cop and that the album sold however millions it sold around the world. The film was the number one film in the world at that time, and I was the only British artist involved in it. It won a Grammy for the success that it had. And in the British press, nobody would talk about it because it would mean liberate or showing that this black guy from South London managed to acquire, or should I say, have the kind of success that I was having at that time. You're not going to show that to young black children in England.
Oh
And for
wow.
me, where the fight was, that was where the struggle was. Why
Mhm.
aren't you showing them that? Why aren't you showing them possible? Why aren't you showing the success of it? Why aren't you showing the millions of records that this guy sold? Right? You can do the same. Why don't you want that to be out there? So in that time, your success, your relevance was being downplayed and looked upon as something as more to be pushed to one side and not truly historic in what it had actually achieved. So for me, the fight was always in England, the fight was always to make better records, not to take on the establishment and want to fight it. I did that in my early days. I went out with a placard outside the BBC, why aren't you playing more black records? Right? But they knew that, like, I could do that because my record was being played around the world. So it wasn't that I was dependent upon England, my success. So they saw what I was doing as being a bit of a maverick, right? Who does he think he is? He doesn't have white management. He doesn't have this and he doesn't have that, and he's doing this and he's being successful. It was a problem. But I liked the problem because, you see, I had to show that it was possible. You didn't have to run accordingly to be successful in this business. And that's
Exactly.
very important all the way going along. It's never been anything else. I may deal with record companies and people like that, but my life doesn't revolve around their wishes and their bidding,
Yes.
because
Mhm.
I'm pimped in this business.
Mhm. Yeah,
Very
it's based on who Junior is.
exactly. It's not based on. It was always that if Junior was being true,
Mhm.
honest, he'd get through this game and be able to live and be able to enjoy, be able to transmit the love that he has inside to give. As soon as you get involved in a lot of the business end of things and people start to try and manipulate your mind so that you go against what you know is truly you spiritually, a lot of people start taking drugs. A lot of people start losing themselves. A lot of people start leaning on people for advice and leaning on people for a way to live their life. That was never going to be me. Right? I looked at England and knew that England didn't see me as an artist that they felt was relevant because you didn't have the other components in place that they could feed off of. And I wasn't going to allow that. So I would do a TV program with a well-known writer, and everybody would want me to stand in the picture, and I'd stand at the back. It's all cool. It's all cool. I'm being paid. It's cool. It's been done. Right? I don't need to push my face up front and
Yes.
say, hey, look at me. Look what I did. Wow, man. Look, hey, this is genius. That was never gonna be me. My emphasis was always to touch people through music. My emphasis wasn't to turn around and try and stand up like a jackass and jump up and down and say, look at me. And that's for what? That moment? I wanted my work to last for longer than just that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And as we see Uncle Junior, you put out 10 albums, and I'm just gonna randomly pick two. Oceans and Prisoner of Hope. You put out Oceans in the mid 2000s. Tell us the purpose of that album, Oceans.
Oceans was really where I was. I felt like I was in the middle of the ocean and I'm swimming by myself, right? And I have all of these different imageries that are going on around in my head that I figured that other people, right, would have too. From The Morning Will Come to Oceans itself to all of those tracks on that album were very, very kind of, I think,
Mhm.
maybe personal, I could say, very personal. They were where I was at, what I was seeing. I was, Janique was still very prevalent during the period of writing that album as well. So, yeah, Oceans was something else. Prisoner of Hope as a project was basically where I was. I felt to myself that that's where I was. I was a prisoner of hope. I was in a
And
place
what
where
was the story behind Prisoner of Hope? You was a prisoner during that time. You put out
exactly.
that album.
Yeah, I felt like I was imprisoned. I was in a particular place in my life whereby there was no moving away from this. This is what it was. And my situation with my daughter made it that I was a prisoner of hope. I was living in hope of the next day. Excuse me. I was living in hope of every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was that prisoner. I lived in that hope. And
Mm-hmm.
God blessed me during that period of time. I wanted to celebrate that by making a song that talked about getting up and being strong and being positive and moving forward. Right? I wanted the album to be that way, that we can all be prisoners of our own hope, fighting, pushing forward in that hope. And that was important to me. That project was very important to me, Prisoner of Hope.
Yeah. And speaking of the album Prisoner of Hope, what is the one song that you want the fans to take note of the most and keep in mind,
Wow. I would
and
say
why?
I would say women of the world. And the reason I would say
A woman
women
of
of
the
the
world,
world,
right?
I would say women of the world because I just feel that women of the world encapsulates what I'm about. It's about empowering women, being able to speak to women, understand, not take for granted, but be holding to,
Yes.
fully grasping the fact of how fortunate We black men
Mhm.
have you black women in our world.
Mhm.
So yeah, women of the world. It's about putting your hand up in the air and celebrating black women. So that would be my track from that album.
Uh-huh. And you picked the best song that you want people to keep in mind and carrying every day.
Yeah.
Because most women in this society, they're taken advantage of, they get beaten, they get treated unfairly, especially the good ones. They rush into bad relationships,
Oh yeah.
they're single mothers. It's like, where are the fathers of the children?
Sometimes also because of how the situation has run for those women,
Mhm.
right? They are looked upon in a derogatory way.
Mhm.
When in reality, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect, right?
Exactly.
You know, to be living in a world whereby they are telling you to be judgmental, you should walk away from that and not judge that individual by what's being shown to you, but judge
Uh-huh.
the individual by who they are to you.
Mhm. Yes. Another person is supposed to not judge another person.
Exactly.
The only one that would judge on person is the man above.
Exactly. We have no right. So, as I said to you earlier, it's about taking your mind out of certain ways of looking at life and
Exactly.
placing it in a place where it's like somebody tells you right from wrong, but somebody else comes in and tells you that wrong can be made to be right, but wrong is wrong. But no, we can make that kind of, if we turn that corner in this corner, then we can make people believe this wrong is wrong, but could be right. So we can mess with the mentality of those people. If you understand that right is right and wrong is wrong, you're under no illusions.
Mhm.
So you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but
Mhm.
a woman and a man is a man. You can tell me whatever else you want to tell me in between. But my understanding is a woman is a woman and a man is a man. However,
Mhm.
those individuals want to take their life and perceive, push forward, or whatever else, that's down to them. But let's not cloud things to make them into things
Mhm.
that don't truly mean anything. And let's stick with what we know means something
Mhm.
as a people and what we know we've been grown with as a people and move forward. Because if not, all we're going to do is we'll continue to stagnate. We're going to continue to ensure that the societies that we live in grow off of the money that we make without investing that money back into us to ensure that we grow. We're going to continue down a path that is not going to be beneficial to us as a
Exactly.
people in any of the diaspora. And we have to start looking at making sure that we are building strong foundations all over the diaspora. Otherwise, our existence within it would be non existent, which is crazy, at least to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, a lot of like, where things happen in society, just like when will it stop? When is it gonna grow? When are the
Mm,
positives gonna happen every single day?
right. You're there all the time. You've got to, as I said, I think even from a musical standpoint, for me, it's always been about trying to touch people. I listened to writers from the 70s and the 60s, and everything that they did, they wanted to touch
Mhm.
people. A Motown,
Mhm.
it was still about touching. If it was Stax, it was about touching. If it was Blue Note, it was about touching. All of these
Mhm.
labels wanted artists that touched people, were able to, the
Mhm.
people that feel them. Even if it was James Brown, you know, um, Joe Tex, Wilson Pickett, way back in
Mhm.
the day, coming all the way up to, let's say, the 90s,
Mhm.
with Teddy and Guy and all of that swing beat stuff that was going through. It's about touching people, making
Yes.
people smile, making people feel good, making people listen. That's what we do best.
Mhm.
You know, when we follow trends, right, then we lose ourselves. You know, a lot of the stuff nowadays,
Mhm.
in terms of what we're hearing, the children aren't saying much. They're talking more about killing and more about depressive stuff. But if they're with major
Yeah,
labels, the
and
major
that's
label
in the
want,
music, like now, like what happened to the music is talk about, like young people succeeding, uplifting one another, being
right.
there for one another. What happened to that type of music?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing for me at the present moment. I don't fully grasp how they can have such a rich history of music to go back to listen to understand the struggle, to understand the struggle hasn't finished. We're still within it. You young people are struggling in a different way to how we did, but you're still struggling. The struggle still goes on. There may be more openings than there was when my time was there, but the struggle is still to open more because
Mhm.
it's still not on an equal par, right? And you must
Mhm.
fully grasp that as young people coming through to see what went before, to understand that you still have to struggle and make it better for the
Yeah.
youngers under you, you know?
Uh-huh.
So if they're not really grabbing, then what you're going to get is what we're seeing, which is unrest, undisciplined, right?
Yeah.
Not prepared to hear, but prepared to listen to the finance. I'll give
Uh-huh.
you $1,000, do so and so. Not understand
Mhm.
how buying, how much you will end up owing them, right? What you won't be able to do from what you think you'll be able to do, how they
Exactly.
control your life. You know,
Exactly.
it's about, as I keep saying, it's about changing that mindset so that
Mhm.
you fully understand what you're in, so you fully can give to it. And having those who are older who you can pick up the phone and say, this is happening, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right? How can I make that move? What do you think? Should I make that move? Should I not? We need to have that kind of community going on.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you don't go through struggles, if you don't make mistakes, that means things are not going to go properly the way you want. Because behind every mistakes and every struggle is a successful person.
Exactly. It's like when people turn around and they say, I failed. You didn't fail. The failure is that you didn't try,
If you give
right?
up,
You tried.
just like that, if you give up, if you say enough is enough, I had it, I give up, that's failure.
On, right? You've tried it, you've pushed, you've worked it, it didn't work for you, right?
Mhm.
So you move on. So you didn't fail, what? Because it didn't work out how other people felt that it should work out. That's what I'm saying about changing
Mhm.
your mindset, not falling for the trap of what others will say, what others will feel, but
Yes.
ensuring that you're doing what's right for you so that in the end you're fine, around you's fine. You've lived a life where you've been able to touch people and in a good way, positive way, right? So that you're living well with people. People are living well with you, right? You can give of yourself freely. All of these things are incredibly important for.
Exactly. And as the days go by, Uncle Junior, do you plan on putting a book out?
Yeah, I do. I've been asked about it a few years now, and I've always held back. But over the last couple of years, I got to think about it a bit, and yeah, I think most probably next year I'm going to start on that. Right? Yeah, it will happen.
Okay. And the fans are definitely looking forward to that. How about a new EP and a new album?
Well, that's all going off as well. I started work on the new album with a guy from, is it New Orleans? Yeah, New Orleans, called Leslie Bailey, So he and I have started on a couple of tracks so far. Jagordi, I've done something for him. iRock, I've just done two things for him. AP Connection, which is a French band, I've just written two songs and performed on that. So yeah, on my last album, which was Everything Set, came out in 2019 with Luciano, Tabby Diamond, Carol Thompson, Janet Kay. They were all on that project, and you can get that from juniorgiscombe.co.uk. So that was cool. So yeah, I've just been continuing to do what I do. I'm out on the road. I'm in France next week.
Safe
Um,
journey.
Thank you very much. You know, doing some dates in France, and then I'm back in England, and I'm doing some dates with Rolls Royce here in the UK. So I have to give thanks. You know, things are still going on, and I just hope I can
Hmm.
get to America soon and play some dates over there.
Hmm. Yeah, amen, amen, and it's gonna happen. And you mentioned these producers and artists featured on your 2019 album. Tell us
Right.
about those people.
Well, Luciano is the messenger. I think lots of people in the reggae world know Luciano. He and I got together and we did a version of Mama Used to Say in a reggae
Oh,
style.
oh, yes, yes, yes. I heard it.
Okay, and
I know that was a lot of fun producing that track.
oh, that was fantastic. Wayne Lonesome produced it down in Jamaica, and
Hmm.
we had a ball doing it. Both of us were in the studio at the same time, and you know, he had just gone through a certain period in his life, and us coming together, it was just a fantastic union. I always wanted to sing with Luciano, so you know, I got my wish. And then I
Hmm.
did the same thing with Stephen Marley, Bob Marley's son. We did another version of it as well, which is on the album. I then did a version of Too Late with Tabby Diamond from the Mighty Diamonds. Unfortunately, he's passed now.
Oh, may
Um,
his soul rest in peace, and he's
yeah.
watching over you.
Oh yeah, Tabby was fantastic. So I worked with Tabby on that project on Too Late, and that was cool. And then I got together with Carol Thompson and Janet Kay. Um, oh gosh, I mean, who else was there on there? Valuables on there. Um, I just got together with people who I love and I thought were just great artists, and it would be nice. I just thought it would be really nice to do an album that was, instead of somebody else doing my songs in reggae, let me do some of them my own songs in reggae, right? And songs that people already know, right? And just let's have a ball doing that. I'm in that place where I need to make music that I'm going to enjoy performing to people. And you can put across the energy that you want to put across through them. So I think like the new project, right, is going to be very interesting. I still do work with
Mhm.
BBC, which is British Collective, myself, and Boy. We have gotten together and we do shows together as well. And we'll have a new album project out next year. But I can't complain. God's been good, and I'm doing what I love. So, you know, and I'm so grateful that yourself and people like yourself still pick up and still want to chat, still want to know what Junior's up to. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome, Uncle Junior. Do you have anything that you would like to say to the people on here who joined the live?
I'd like to say to everybody who joined live that I am very grateful for all of you who have been there for over the years, continued to listen, continued to come to the shows, and have continued to feel the kind of vibe that I'm trying to put out to you, which is one of love, one of positivity, one of making sure that we understand who we are as a people, and we should nourish that and build that and push that. And if nothing else, through the work that I've done, if nothing else, and that was what was left, that people understood what I was all about, then I give thanks. So I thank you all for the chance and the pleasure to be able
Mhm.
to do what I do and give that to you.
Amen. You're welcome, and thank you, Uncle Junior. It was more than a pleasure and an honor having you as a special guest this evening on my podcast. God
Thank
bless you, and we're gonna talk soon. And I'm looking forward to you to coming to the U.S.
Oh, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while, and like anything else, you kind of miss that spot that kind of made it possible for you to have a spot.
Okay. God bless, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, and God bless you too. Thank you.
You're welcome.